Have you ever noticed that your greatest strength isn't how fast you think or how confident you appear, but how calm you stay when everything around you is falling apart? Most people, they react, told they snap, shout, shut down, or spiral. A single delay, an unexpected comment, a mistake, and suddenly their peace is gone. But what if I told you, you can train your mind to hold steady through the storm? The ancient Stoics lived through wars, betrayal, slavery, and loss, while yet they mastered something most people today have forgotten. Calm isn't a gift, it's a practice. And in this video, we're not just going to talk about staying calm, we're going to build it. Together, we'll walk through 10 practical Stoic tools. While to tools you can use anytime your mind feels overloaded, your anger is rising, or fear is closing in. These aren't abstract ideas, they're battle-tested principles for inner peace. So take a deep breath, and if you're ready, leave a comment below that says, "From today, my peace is non-negotiable." Because once you commit to calm, it becomes your superpower. Let's begin. Tool number 1, not everything deserves your energy. Your mind is like a home. Every time you respond to a small insult, every time you argue back just to prove a point, it's like opening the front door and letting a stranger walk in to rearrange the furniture, track mud across the floor, and leave you with the mess. This is what we do every time we react without awareness. The truth is, not everything that demands your attention deserves it, but most of us were never taught that. We were taught to speak up, to defend ourselves, to never let someone get away with disrespect. So we react. Not out of strength, but out of habit. But here's something no one told us growing up. Every emotional reaction is a withdrawal from your inner bank. And that bank, it has limits. You wake up with a full charge, but how much of it do you give away to traffic, to people online, to small slights, to imagined arguments in your head? The Stoics had a different approach. They didn't try to control everything around them. They didn't waste energy correcting every wrong. They trained themselves to choose what gets their presence, their focus, their emotion. Epictetus once said, "If you are disturbed, it is not by things, but by your judgment about those things." And in another place, "He who is a slave to impulse is not free." So the next time you feel the spark, that rush of heat in your chest, the reflex to snap back, the urge to prove your worth, pause, just for a breath. Ask yourself, will this matter in 3 days, in 3 years? If the answer is no, don't give it your peace, because silence isn't weakness, it's a decision. It's a higher form of power. The more selective you become with your energy, the more powerful your presence becomes. Not everything deserves your voice. Not everything deserves your fire. And the more you understand this, the less you'll be pulled into battles that were never yours to begin with. Tool number 2, change the voice in your head. Sometimes the loudest voice in your life is the one no one else can hear. The one inside your head, constantly narrating, judging, warning, criticizing. And the sad truth is, for many people, that voice is crueler than any enemy they've ever faced. Think about it. How do you speak to yourself when no one's around? When you make a mistake, do you call yourself lazy, stupid, a failure? Do you replay your worst moments as if punishing yourself makes them go away? The Stoics taught us something vital. It is not the event that hurts us, but what we tell ourselves about the event. That internal story becomes your identity. Repeat it long enough, and your inner voice turns from a guide into a prison. You stop taking risks because you always mess things up. You stop reaching out because you're not enough. You stop growing because what's the point? But here's the quiet revolution. You can retrain your inner voice. Start here. Write down one sentence that always shows up when you're low. Something like, "I'll never be good at this." Now rewrite it, not as fake positivity, but as a simple truth that gives you room to grow. "I'm still learning. I made a mistake, but that doesn't mean I am one. I don't have to be perfect to make progress." These aren't just words. Repetition carves new grooves in your mind. At first it feels forced, but slowly the path becomes smoother. One day, that new voice becomes the default. And when your mind becomes your ally, when the voice inside your head speaks with the same compassion you'd offer a friend, the noise of the world no longer has the power to break you. Tool number 3, ask the better question. When life breaks you, have you ever been in one of those moments when everything seems to fall apart and the first thing that comes to your mind is, why is this happening to me? Maybe it was the end of a relationship, or the job you thought was secure just slipped away. Or maybe it was one of those quieter losses, the kind no one sees, like a dream slowly fading, or a version of yourself you no longer recognize. And in those moments, the mind does what it's trained to do. It searches for answers. Why now? Why me? What did I do to deserve this? But here's the hard truth. Most of the time, that question leads nowhere. It loops, it circles, it digs deeper into the wound instead of showing you the way out. The Stoics understood this deeply. When Epictetus talked about suffering, he made a clear distinction. It's not the event that breaks you, it's your judgment about the event. And there's no judgment heavier than the kind you turn against yourself. So what can you do instead? Change the question. Instead of, why is this happening to me? Ask, what can I do with this? What's still in my control? Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That single shift can transform your entire emotional landscape. Let's be honest, life will shake you. It will confuse you, frustrate you, disappoint you. That part is not up to you. But how you respond? That's always your move. Lost an opportunity? Instead of spiraling into shame, ask, what new doors does this open? Faced with betrayal, you can dwell on the unfairness. Or you can ask, how can I grow from this without becoming bitter? And yes, sometimes the pain is too fresh, and the better question doesn't come right away. That's okay. But when you're ready, and that first breath of clarity returns, let that be your new instinct. What now? Here's a practice the Stoics would recommend, one that still works today. Take a blank piece of paper, draw a line down the middle. On the left, write, what I cannot control. On the right, what I can still influence. And then be honest. Maybe you can't undo what happened. Maybe you can't change what they said or rewind the choice you made. But maybe, just maybe, you can still decide what kind of person you want to be in the middle of all this. That's where power begins. Not in demanding that the storm stops, but in learning how to hold the wheel while it rages. Your question defines your direction. Ask the one that leads you forward. Tool number 4, protect your peace, not your ego. Have you ever found yourself in an argument that hours later left you completely drained? And for what? You didn't walk away feeling better. You didn't change their mind. You just replayed it in your head, trying to come up with the perfect comeback. That wasn't clarity. That was ego. You see, the ego doesn't want truth. It wants victory. It wants to win, even if that win costs you your peace. It pushes you to have the last word, to raise your voice, to prove that you're right. And yet, in doing so, you often lose the very thing you were trying to protect: your dignity, your center, your calm. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca wrote, "It is better to conquer anger than to seek revenge, for a silent victory is still a victory." This isn't weakness, this is wisdom. You're not giving in, you're choosing not to be pulled in. Because sometimes silence is louder than shouting. Imagine this. Someone comes at you with sarcasm, with accusations, with disrespect. Your heart pounds, your breath shortens, your mind sharpens, already forming your defense. But then, instead of responding, you breathe. You look them in the eye and simply say, "I'm not continuing this conversation in that tone." Then you walk away, not out of fear, but out of strength, because real strength is knowing which battles are worth it. And often, the argument you don't enter is the one you've already won. Here's something to reflect on. The next time you feel yourself being pulled into conflict, stop and ask, am I defending truth or just defending my ego? If it's truth, speak with clarity. If it's ego, let it go. Not every disagreement needs a debate, not every insult needs an answer, and not every attack is worth your attention. The more you practice this, the more peaceful you become. And here's the most powerful part. When you no longer need to win, you start to live above the noise. You become untouchable, not because you avoid conflict, but because you no longer depend on being right to feel whole. And that is real freedom. Tool number 5, turn life's challenges into your training ground. Most people see obstacles as punishment, as if life were against them, putting up walls, holding them back, trying to break them down. But the Stoics saw something else. They believed every discomfort, every delay, every difficult person, every unexpected demand was a form of training, not a punishment, a practice. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The obstacle on the path becomes the path." Let that sink in. What you once thought was in your way might actually be showing you the way. Think of this, someone asks you for something that's clearly not your responsibility. Your impulse might be to say yes, just to avoid conflict. But pause. What if this moment is your training ground, to learn how to say no without guilt? What if the discomfort you feel is just resistance to growth? What if this pressure is where your next layer of clarity lives? When you frame life this way, everything changes. The coworker who constantly interrupts becomes your training in patience. The unexpected traffic jam becomes your lesson in surrender. The conversation you've been avoiding becomes your moment to speak with courage. Life becomes your gym, but not for the body, for the mind. Seneca said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." Your mental strength doesn't grow in silence, it grows in the storm. It grows when you feel the chaos and stay calm anyway. So the next time life throws something at you, try saying to yourself, "This is my training." When someone crosses a boundary, this is my training to respond with firmness and grace. When things don't go your way, this is my training in flexibility and perspective. You're not in a war, you're on a path of maturity. And each time you pass through difficulty without losing yourself, that is a quiet victory. Not over life, but over your lesser self. That part of you that wants to react, blame, collapse. But instead, you respond. You learn, you grow. The world may never notice it, but inside, you've just taken another step toward becoming unshakable. Tool number 6, let silence be your daily refuge. In a world that never stops talking, silence has become a forgotten luxury. Notifications, messages, opinions, noise. Ayana, but the most dangerous noise isn't around you. It's the kind inside your head. That mental chatter that never stops. Georgia is jumping from thought to thought, chasing problems that haven't happened, reliving things that already passed. Blaise Pascal once wrote, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." And today that may be truer than ever. We confuse stimulation with life. We think silence is emptiness. But silence, real silence, is where life begins to settle. The Stoics didn't just seek peace from the world, silence. They practiced silence as a way to return to themselves. Marcus Aurelius wrote his Meditations not to be read by others, but to center his own thoughts, to build stillness inside the noise of an empire. And you don't need a mountaintop. You don't need incense or special cushions or the perfect playlist. Seize me, sometimes all you need is 5 quiet minutes. A walk without your phone, a morning coffee with no screen, a seat by the window, just watching light move. In that space, your thoughts begin to settle, guarana, like sand in a glass of water. At first, everything is murky, but give it time and the clarity returns. Silence doesn't erase the chaos. It helps you see what's actually yours to carry. It reminds you that not every thought needs a reaction, that not every emotion needs a name, and most importantly, Begains a silence lets you hear yourself again. The version of you that exists beneath the scroll, beneath the schedule, beneath the noise. So here's your Stoic challenge. Choose one moment in your day, and make it sacred. 5 minutes, no input, no talking, just you, breathing, noticing, allowing. At first it may feel strange, even uncomfortable, but stay with it. Because the more comfortable you become in silence, the less the world can pull you out of yourself. And in that quiet place within, you'll find something rare. Not just peace, but presence. Tool number 7, surround yourself with calm or live in constant fire. You can be strong, you can be grounded, focused, disciplined. But if you are constantly surrounded by urgency, noise, and emotional chaos, your peace will start to burn out, even if you protect it with both hands. Because the truth is, you're not an island. Your nervous system breathes the emotional air around you. And if that air is polluted, you begin to tense, you tighten, you brace for impact, even when nothing is actually happening. Jean-Jacques Rousseau once said, "Man is good by nature, but corrupted by society." And while that may sound dramatic, there's truth in it. Because no matter how solid your inner practice is, your environment still shapes your inner weather. Modern science confirms this. Mirror neurons in your brain are constantly picking up on the energy, tone, and behavior of those around you. Sit with someone who's always angry, and even if you don't argue, your body tightens. Spend your days near someone who gossips, competes, interrupts, and your mind learns to stay on guard. Over time, you stop just being around the chaos and start living from it. You become reactive without knowing why. Some people are like sparks. One wrong look, one small delay, and everything around them becomes a fire. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your life putting out flames that aren't even yours. But there are also people who feel like still water. They speak slowly, they listen without interrupting. Their very presence seems to soften the edges of the room. When you're near them, your breath slows, your thoughts clear. That kind of presence, medicine. So ask yourself honestly, who have I been surrounding myself with? What kinds of conversations am I letting into my life? What spaces do I keep returning to, online and offline? Because yes, maybe you can't leave your job right now. Maybe your family dynamic is difficult. But you can still build small refuges, because a corner of your room that stays clean and quiet, a playlist that brings you back to center, a friendship with someone who doesn't fix you, just sees you. You can't always control who walks into your life, but you can choose who stays. You can't control the world's chaos, but you can create a pocket of stillness inside it. And sometimes, that's what saves you. The calm you build around you becomes the calm you build within. Because if you don't choose your environment carefully, your environment will start choosing how you feel, how you speak, and who you become. So protect your peace, not just through meditation or mindset, but by choosing carefully what energies you allow to share your space. And remember, the people around you are either helping you return to yourself or pulling you further away. Tool number 8, what disturbs you today will mean nothing tomorrow. Try to remember the last thing that truly upset you. Maybe it was a message that never came, a meeting that ran late, a sharp tone from someone you care about. In that moment, it felt big. Your chest tightened, your thoughts spun, you couldn't focus, you couldn't let it go. But now, a day has passed, a week maybe, and that same situation, it barely even matters. That's the strange thing about emotion. It feels permanent when you're inside it, but almost nothing lasts. The Stoics knew this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "How much time he gains who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks, but only at what he does himself." In other words, peace comes from perspective. When you zoom out, most things are small. That rude email, that driver who cut you off, that plan that didn't go your way. At the time, it might have felt like the world was ending, but today, it barely leaves a mark. Your nervous system is fast. It reacts before you can think. It floods your body with emotion, as if everything were life or death. But your wisdom moves slower. It waits. It watches. It doesn't panic. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, when your pulse is racing, when anger is rising, when anxiety is taking the wheel, pause and ask, will this still matter tomorrow? Next week? Next year? Let that question shift your perspective. Most storms are smaller than they feel. You are not the wave. You are the ocean. The wave might knock you off balance for a moment, but you are still here. Still deep. Still whole. Emotional maturity isn't about never reacting. It's about remembering that most of what disturbs you now is already on its way out. So instead of fueling the moment, choose to outlast it. Let it rise, let it fall, let it go. You'll thank yourself tomorrow for what you chose not to carry today. Tool number 9, outer order creates inner calm. You get home after a long, exhausting day. The sink is overflowing. The table is covered in things you haven't touched in weeks. Your phone lights up with 20 unread notifications. You feel irritated, tense, and without even knowing why, you start believing you are the problem. But maybe it's not just inside you. Maybe the chaos around you is quietly disorganizing what's within. Because your space isn't neutral, it speaks. A cluttered table says, "There's no time." A full sink whispers, "You're behind." A phone filled with red bubbles and open apps screams, "You're needed everywhere, right now." And even if you try to ignore it, your nervous system is listening. The Stoics understood this. They lived with simplicity, not out of rigid discipline, but out of wisdom. Because they knew, external disorder slowly becomes internal noise. And if your mind is already tired, the last thing it needs is more chaos in the environment around it. Confucius once said, "He who cannot put his house in order will be unable to command anything greater." It's not about perfection, it's about clarity. A space that's clean, quiet, and intentional becomes a message. A reminder that says, you are safe, you are present, you are home. Imagine this. You enter a room where everything is in place. The air flows, light enters gently. No piles, no noise, just space. You don't even have to think. Your body understands, I can breathe here, because you're more than internal system. You're mousing no, or your mans. You're looking for a value or role. So before you try to fix the world or figure out your entire future, start small. Clean one drawer, clear one surface, make your bed. Because sometimes peace doesn't arrive through thinking. It arrives when your world stops shouting. Let your room become a refuge. Let your home support your healing. The world outside is already loud. Don't let your personal space add to the volume. Create places that restore you. A shelf with only what matters. A phone without 40 apps screaming for your attention. A closet that doesn't overwhelm you when you open it. These are not superficial things. They are signals. And every time you put order outside, you're sending a quiet message inward. All is well. You're back in control. Remember, peace isn't only found in the mind. It's also built with your hand. Number 10. Let peace lead. Every single time. Every day, you face decisions. Some feel small, what to eat, what to reply, what to click, but others carry more weight. Do you respond to the provocation? Do you revisit that old pain? Do you feed the thought that's been draining you? And in each moment, whether you see it or not, you're choosing between reaction and peace. Most people don't make that choice consciously. They let emotion lead. One comment, and they're already tense. One memory, and they're already spiraling. They hand over their peace like it costs nothing, but it does. What you tolerate becomes your routine. And if your routine is made of tension, reactivity, urgency, and noise, your mind starts calling that normal. But the Stoics knew better. Seneca reminded us, peace is not the absence of problems. It's the presence of clarity. It's not about avoiding life. It's about choosing to live it with awareness. Because peace isn't passive. Peace is strength without noise. It's refusing to let the world decide how you feel or who you become. So from now on, let peace be your filter. When a conflict rises, ask, is this worth trading my calm for? When a thought keeps pulling you back, ask, is this building me or breaking me? And when life becomes loud again, when your emotions begin to rush, when someone tries to bring you into their storm, pause. Close your eyes just for 2 seconds and repeat, I choose my peace. Not because you're avoiding the world, but because you finally remembered who you are within it. And now, peace is no longer something you hope for. It's something you protect every single time. You've made it to the end, not just of this video, but of a quiet journey through 10 Stoic tools for inner peace. If even one of them spoke to you, let it stay, let it take root. Because peace isn't something you stumble into. And peace isn't something you stumble into. It's something you choose again and again, every day. The world will always try to pull you out of yourself, but now you have the tools to return. And if you're walking this path too, you're not alone. It's what the world was right when you're saying. Drop a comment below. Which tool will you carry into your life today? And if this journey resonated with you, make sure to subscribe to Life Wisdom. Each week we go deeper into timeless philosophy to help you stay calm, focused, and unshaken no matter what the world brings. Until next time, stay steady, stay centered, and keep building the kind of strength that doesn't shout, increases, but endures.